Hello, all 13U Renegade families. Today is April 23rd, 2022. Believe it or not, we are on the second half of our spring 22 season. I've had a couple folks ask me to put together another one of these videos where we're explaining what the coaches are doing and focusing on right now, so here we go. Before I get into that, I wanted to also let everybody know we're super excited about the Gulf Shores, Alabama trip. We're staying in Orange Beach with a check-in date of the 7th of June and a departure date of the 13th. If you need more details on that, please get with Amy. Now let's recap the season so far and get into what the point of emphasis going forward is going to be. One of the things that we noticed in the first part of the season is our inability to perform on Sundays. So for example, the last 3 games that we lost in the first 3 tournaments, the elimination games, I think we scored a combined 6 or 8 runs. It wasn't very many. So what we've been working on the last month or so is getting the boys to understand their approach at the plate. So let me give you a couple of examples of what that means and what we've done to try to rectify the situation. One of the things that I did, I went back and looked at the strikeouts that we'd had in the first 3 tournaments. And something interesting popped up out of the numbers. 64% of our strikeouts were plate appearances where the batter watched the first strike. And I actually excluded taking pitches out of that equation. So to put that in a different way, a batter was twice as likely to strike out if you watched the first strike. So if you got up there and you swung it at the first pitch, or you fouled off a ball to get a strike, you were half as likely to strike out at that at bat. Another statistic, as of right now, there's a stat called slugging percentage. Look it up, it's very interesting. I'm happy to talk to you about it as well. But slugging percentage, the lowest slugging percentages on the team also correlate with another statistic, which is pitches seen per plate appearance. So what does that mean? It means that the more pitches a batter is taking, the less likely he's going to hit the ball hard. So what does that tell us as coaches? That's mental. That's not a physical problem. That's not a mechanical issue. That's an approach issue. So what we did prior to our last tournament extensively was talk to the boys about, what is their approach when they get in the batter's box. We actually tracked in our last tournament pitches that were hit for base hits with less than 1 strike, and then how many pitches were hit with 2 strikes, and so on. And the point being was players have got to get into the batter's box looking to do damage. They've got to get up there looking to hit the ball hard. Personally, kid strikes out, swinging, don't care. Guy gets up there and watches 2 or 3 pitches for strikes and gets out, that's a problem. So we're working on that. We'll continue to work on that. I will tell you, in our last 3 games, this past tournament Sunday, we scored 28 runs. So 28 versus 6 or 8, just by changing our approach. So now, what are we focusing on this latter part of the 22 spring season? One of the observations that I took away from the last couple of tournaments is other organizations, from a pitching standpoint, are utilizing off-speed pitches. So for example, a changeup or curveball much more effectively than our pitching staff is. So in my opinion, right now, we've got a bunch of throwers, meaning we've got a bunch of good athletes who can throw the ball, but we don't have a bunch of good pitchers, meaning understanding the aspects of pitching from a standpoint of changing speed. Additionally, one of the other things that I've noticed is we're giving up a lot of hits when we're ahead in the count. So for example, no balls, 2 strikes, or 1 ball, 2 strikes, we're throwing something that's catching way too much of the plate and giving that guy, the opponent, an opportunity to redeem himself, which has happened quite a bit. We've given up a lot of 2-strike hits. So we've talked about that and how to miss appropriately. Going back to the off-speed stuff, one of the things I did in the last tournament was I was clocking the boys. So specifically, I'm looking at from the time they start their motion to the time they release the baseball. And then I would compare that from fastballs to another pitch that we called. So for example, fastball versus a changeup. To give you a little bit of insight on this, major leaguers range from 0.95 to 1.05 seconds typically from the time they start out the stretch to they throw the baseball. Nolan Ryan was at 0.88 seconds on average. So when I was monitoring our players, one of them in particular went from a 1 second range to throw the baseball to a 1.35 seconds on a changeup. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 35% slower movement. So if you're a batter, you don't have to consciously sit there and go, wow, this guy's slowing down. You can see it. And so that pitch becomes very ineffective when you see the pitcher slowing their body down. So what we've been working on the last couple of weeks is making the boys understand that their changeups, curveballs, they all have to operate at the same tempo. What changes the velocity of the pitch is going to be their grip. So for example, on a changeup, you're moving your fingers to the outside of the ball, you're trying to create friction, hold the ball in a different manner to slow the ball down, but your arm motion looks exactly the same. This stuff is not easy, it's not learned overnight, but it is something that we're going to focus on. When I look at our infielding, our catching, outfield, base running, I think that we're as good or better than any team we face. The area we have to improve upon the most right now is our pitching ability. So be prepared as parents and viewers of the game. We're going to be calling a lot more off-speed stuff than we have in the past. I do expect to see some wild throws. Just being totally honest with you. But our goal is not to shine in every single game right now. Of course, we want that, but our goal ultimately is to go to Alabama and perform very well. So we're going to be putting these boys in the next 3 tournaments in some awkward positions from a pitching standpoint. Hopefully it doesn't cost us any games, but maybe it will. I don't know. But what it is going to do is advance. It's going to advance our pitching. It's going to advance our catching. We want these boys to understand, hey, this is the perfect time to throw a changeup and bury it at the kid's feet. And then we'll go outside and up on the next pitch. That's just an example of where we're trying to advance the pitching ability versus the throwing ability. So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Looking forward to a great performance this weekend and forthcoming. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and we'll see you at the ballpark.